Namaskar, His Excellency Ambassador and dear friends. I am very glad that today Indian Council for Cultural Relations, Government of India has given me this responsibility to say something about Gandhi and contemporary challenges. To celebrate the Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary, this lecture is organized by His Excellency Ambassador. Mahatma Gandhi, 1869 to 1948, impelled by his inner voice, expressed his conviction that the world, which is run on the lines of modern civilization, could not continue for long. The starting point of his proposal for the construction of a social order is the man who, through a revolutionary transformation of self, initiates a process of social reordering and helps create institutions that give rise and sustain a true civilization. The key question that occupied Gandhi during much of his life were centered around the ontological status of man and his relationship with his fellow men and the social and natural environment that sustained him. In considering these questions, he develops the concept of a true civilization that differs radically from the one underlying modern civilization. His vision of a true civilization, however, cannot be fully appreciated without looking deeply into the tensions, the dilemmas, and the paradoxes, in short, the abnormalities that characterize modern civilization. Most of the critics of modern civilization focus only on some aspects of it, expose their faults and defects, and show how they distort and despoil the meaning of life. It is assumed that once these aspects are set right, the wholesomeness of life will be distorted to its full glory. Though the critics provide interesting insights into the functioning of modern society, they remain committed to the worldview projected by modern civilization. Their principal objective is not to question and change the basic objective of modern life. Their aim is to create appropriate conditions that can remove perceived obstacles to the realization of these objectives. Gandhi's critique of modern civilization, on the other hand, is total. Gandhi's critique of modern civilization rests primarily on three very significant positions. Gandhi believed that the driving force of modern civilization is what he calls the hunger for wealth and greedy pursuit of worldly pleasure. The desire of amass wealth in situations where resources are limited inevitably leads to violence both at the individual and the collective levels. Amassing of wealth by one individual means preventing others from having access to the resources one wants oneself. This may not always lead to physical violence, but it does have more severe consequences than physical hurt. It creates a social order in which inequality, oppression, and deprivation prevail, with disastrous implications of human dignity. At the collective level, this is reflected in one nation exploiting other nations that not infrequently lead to even wars. And finally, presenting material acquisition as a desirable goal for each individual creates a situation where individuals are motivated to strive at the cost of majority, to shamelessly acquire an ever-rising level of physical comfort and luxury. Obviously, in this race, only a few can succeed, and even that too at great cost. They very expectation, the very expectation that one can make good, make one blind to the hopelessness, the cruelty, the oppression, the exploitation, the indignity, etc., inherent in modern civilization. Though Gandhi's proposal for the reconstruction of society have their roots in the dialectical relationship between his thought and actions, the ideas themselves spring from a living, dynamic and vibrant core. We get a glimpse of this core in Hind Swaraj, a small book which he wrote in 1909. Hind Swaraj constitutes a powerful critique of modern civilization and shows how modern civilization distorts man's existence and propels him to limitless greed, acquisition and violence. Gandhi does not remain content with just denouncing modern civilization. He also provides us solutions. Scattered throughout his voluminous writings are clues on the basis of which it is possible to reconstruct his vision of self and society. Any conception of desirable social order must begin with the conception of self. Modern civilization ignores the claims of the inner being and emphasizes the externalization of life as the true object of man's existence, which totally ignores the possibility that the moral and spiritual propensity of self-development is inherent to human nature. It denies the claim that the uniqueness of being human is essentially ethico-religious, and this uniqueness cannot be understood if human beings are reduced to their biological, psychological or sociological aspects. In the words of Gandhiji, he is a special creation of God precisely to the extent that he is distinct from the rest of his creation. Perfection in a lifetime, therefore, means a continuous, ceaseless striving towards knowing one's true nature. In eating, sleeping and in the performance of their physical functions, man is not different from the brute, but what distinguishes him from the brute is his ceaseless striving to rise above the brute on the moral plane. Gandhi's vision for holistic development. For Gandhi, Swaraj or freedom means rule over one's self. Swaraj does not and cannot, in Gandhi's opinion, come from any external circumstances or through paying lip service to it. It is an inward change. It is the transformation of the heart. Thus, Gandhi's concept of Swaraj projects a holistic view of society characterized by economic equality, guaranteeing the satisfaction of minimum basic material requirements, interaction among people based on ahimsa, non-violence, and sovereignty of the people based on pure moral authority. Such a society is, in Gandhi's view, Ramarajya, rule of God. It is Gandhi's contention that without the support of pure moral authority, a political order, even if it is constitutional and democratic, has to rely on violence in order to support its authority. A social order based on non-violence must reflect interdependency, harmony, and substantial but not mechanical equality. It should also be informed by the principle of Swadeshi, which simply means that the most effective organization of social, economic, and political functions must follow the natural contours of the neighborhood. This essentially means the primacy of the immediate community. For Gandhi, the village in India is the primary unit of social, economic, and political organization. The village republic, self-reliant and vibrant, will be, as far as possible, self-sufficient in food and clothing, with all powers and institutions of self-government and committed to perfect democracy based upon individual freedom. Decentralization then becomes the basis of the village republic. Substantive equality of its basic characteristics and participation by all is the essential mode of its functioning. Gandhi believes in the essential unity of life. He sees in the compartmentalization of human activities a severe threat to the central pursuit of self-realization. Compartmentalization of life creates an asymmetry and elevates one activity to a level where it seems like it represents the totality of life. Therefore, Gandhi rejects segmentation of human activities and refuses to give priority to a particular segment at the expense of others. As he said, the whole gamut of man's activities today constitute an indivisible whole. You cannot divide social, economic, political and purely religious work into watertight compartments. I do not know any religion apart from human activity. It provides a moral basis to all other activities which they would otherwise lack, reducing life to a maze of sound and fury signifying nothing. It is in this connection that we can appreciate why Gandhiji equates economic with ethics. He firmly rejects the idea that economic activities have their own laws and need not be influenced by moral and spiritual values. The present economic system, based as it is on inequality, exploitation, and domination, must be replaced by human economics if man is to attain peace, happiness, and spirituality. Given the centrality and pervasiveness of the spiritual quest, economic life and relations must be based on and reflect the values that are implied by and inherent in the process of self-development. Gandhi identifies these values as ahimsa, non-violence, harmony, equality, and swadeshi. An economic order based on these values must emphasize the minimization of wants, self-sufficiency, decentralization, and localization of production and distribution and trusteeship. It is apparent that what Gandhi visualizes is a network of local communities which are self-sufficient insofar as their relationship with the other world is concerned, but interdependent in their internal interactions. These communities will be communities in the real sense of the term, in which the relationship between the individual and society is based on the well-being of both. It is such a community that really provides support to and sustenance for the quest for self-development. The inseparability of religion and politics means subordinating politics to religion and organizing the former on principles deduced from the latter. It also means that politics must become a means for articulating and reflecting in socio-political life and organization the basic value commitment that Gandhi considers essential for human existence. It is in this perspective that Gandhi's insistence on the inseparability of religion and politics can be appreciated. As he said, I have been experimenting with myself and friends by introducing religion into politics, and now I believe they cannot be divorced. Let me explain what I mean by religion. It is not Hinduism, which I prize most highly, but the religion which transcends Hinduism, the basic truth which underlies all the religions of the world. It is the struggle for truth, for self-expression. I call it the truth force, the permanent element in human nature, constantly struggling to find itself, to know its maker. The unequal relationship between the people and their government has to be terminated, and the true relationship between them must be established. That is to say, the government must act as the servant of the people instead of functioning as their master. Gandhi would therefore like the government to obey the wishes of the people rather than determine these wishes and then act on them. I should expect rules, says Gandhi, to rule according to my wish, but in order to ensure that the government acts as the servant of the people, it is necessary for the people to themselves remain alert and active. In the words of Gandhiji, self-government means continuous effort to be independent of government control, whether it is foreign government or it is national. Swaraj government will be a sorry affair if people look up it for regulation of every details of life. The classical statement of Thoreau that government is best which governs the least exemplifies this. It is in view of these considerations that Gandhi puts so much emphasis on Swadeshi. Swadeshi means commitment to one's own country, locality, localization, etc. As he said, Swadeshi is that spirit in us which motivates us to serve and use our immediate surroundings to the exclusion of the more remote. So, if we take up religion to explain the point, I must restrict myself to my ancestral religion. That is the use of my immediate religious surroundings. If I find it defective, I should serve it by purging it for its defects. In the domain of politics, I should make use of indigenous institutions and serve them by querying them of their proved defects. In that of economics, I should use only things that are produced by immediate neighbors and serve these industries by making them efficient and complete where they might be found wanting. Gandhiji belongs to the future and not to the past. He is not dead. His message is eternal and shall live as long as the sun shines in the vast open skies, as he himself wrote, but so long as my faith burns bright, as I hope it will even if I stand alone, I shall be alive in the grave, and what is more, speaking from it. In the words of Louis Fisher, if man is to survive, if civilization is to survive and flower in freedom, truth and decency, the remainder of the 20th century and what lies beyond must belong not to Lenin or Trotsky, not to Marx or Mao or Ho or Che, but to Mahatma Gandhi. Thank you very much. Namaskar.